once again, this time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!
And good evening. Yeehaw. Welcome to the SFP News Desk, Christian and Conservative. News from a Christian and Conservative slant. Well, we got a lot to cover. There's a lot of news going on. We're going to give some updates on some polling a little later in the program. And from a polling company that had not shown so far. I got my research in, and they've got some pretty updated polling. Of course, everybody's doing updated polling now, but theirs has a nice breakdown. And I wanted to look at the state of Georgia because we're going to look at percentages across all of most of the toss-up states. Maybe all of them, but pretty close to all of them. I might have missed one, but we're going to look at the polling data for those just between the two. And then we're going to drill down into Georgia a little bit and look at what made up those numbers. And so they're one of the two that I respect. And, we'll dig into that a little bit, as well as just debate news. That's Tuesday night at 9:00. And we're going to look at a couple of those things too, and see what we can see with that. So there's a lot to take in, and just some general election news. And I pulled some selected articles that I do want to look at from around the country and from different sides, be they liberal and or conservative, and just see what a general consensus is of what they're talking about as we're drawing closer to election day. There are a number of states. I don't know, for those of you in other states, Georgia is not one of them, but there's a number of states. I don't know if I'm going to pull this graphic up tonight. I may have it. I'm not sure. I may just wait till the next week on that one. But there's a number of states that allow, registering day of. And that's really weird to me that they do that. Georgia has a cutoff date for those things. And so, but there are a number of states that do that. It seemed like it'd be very confusing and easy to manipulate, my opinion, but we may or may not look at that, but definitely going to look at some news articles and then also look at this polling data as we're getting closer. We know it's close. I don't think, our country is who knows, things can happen, but I don't think a blowout either way. I do think because just of the nature of the way things are, and the country divided, and people, there's just those that do not like Donald J. Trump, and there's those that don't like Kamala. And so it's going to, I don't think, there'll be areas, yes, that are easily taken, but overall it's very, very tight. And everybody knows that. So the debate, will it change votes? And I would just, before I propose that question, I'm going to propose a question here in a minute. Let me begin by saying, still prayers go out. It is absolutely horrible throughout much of the South. And I was thinking about this today. When you look at a toss-up state like North Carolina, now it's not the whole state, but there is in that Buncombe County area. You've heard me talk about that area, because my family immigrated through there, Buncombe County, Black Mountain area, over at Asheville. It's a mess. I mean, there's hundreds of roads that are, blocked. There's the collapse of part of Interstate 40. And this is not going to be totally fixed within, 36, 37 days, wherever it is now that we've got. Not going to be fixed. And it's not to say that there's an impossibility, but I would say with all that's going on, is there a possibility that there might be not as much of a turnout in those areas? Because right now they're in survival mode. A lot of people are trying to figure out, home situations, a job, how to get to work, whatever it may be. And then some areas like Tennessee, although there is that North Carolina too. I mean, there is an area in North Carolina where there's like over, I don't even want to say the number. It's a horrible number of missing people. And there's a lot that's going to be on the table headed into the next couple of weeks, even a month, maybe, and certainly going forward. And on into Tennessee. And these are just areas that I focused on. There may be more, but there's certainly those areas which are, they're just ravaged. They're damaged. They're not good. And will it affect turnout? I think certainly so, to a degree. Will it be enough to cause any kind of a swing there? Well, you just don't know. It's really a tight race, and so is the governor race, and that's ugly as well right now. And where does it go? But then you get on over it. I was watching a press conference today from up in Tennessee. There's another area up there where the dam collapsed, and there's missing people. Reports of a casket floating by, and it's just horrible. And the officials don't have a lot of answers right now. They don't have a lot of answers. They very emotional. I really appreciate. Excuse me. I appreciated them praying or mentioning prayer. I appreciated them reading scripture, and just very moving. There's places that are not accessible by cars. They're four-wheeling water and food into these areas. There's people missing, and when they got to, there's people that don't have water. Of course, they don't have homes. There's a roads out, bridges out, and what do? This is a mess. Excuse me. Went down the wrong way. Good evening, Daniel. How you doing, brother? It's good to have you in here. Let me get my throat cleared. But I was watching this press conference. I think Unicoi, the Irwin, Tennessee area, or Unicoi County, Irwin, Tennessee, right on that Tennessee-North Carolina border. That area got ravaged. Just the water flow was incredible. They weren't ready for that. This is like the 100-year thing or something or more. And there's people missing. But, there's 300 or I think it was, I'm trying to remember the number. It was 300 or something families or homes not, that they don't have water. I don't know if they had electricity, but they don't have no water. The sewage is messed up. The sewage treatment plant is underwater. There's sewage going in. It's not being treated, and sewage going out, and it's going into the river. And so that right there tells you just how bad it is. And they don't, they're trying to get together with, what is that, TDEC or whatever it is of Tennessee, and they're trying to figure out a plan on what to do. There's not a lot of answers right now. These are major infrastructures. The water's got to recede, cleanup's got to begin, some sort of roads have got to be repaired, at least the major thoroughfares. But some of these people are going to be in a mess for a while. And that's first of all, that's life. You gotta, you gotta live. You gotta figure out life. You gotta eat. You gotta have water. You gotta be able to have, a way to clean up and all those things. Those have to come first. And in this case, it could affect election turnout in some areas. It's just horrible. And now we hear that there's one, maybe even two storms forming. And I think Isaac was the first one to be named. And where's it going to let one of them? They're trying to say, no, I don't. This thing could change. Hello, Brother Cook. Love you, brother. And yes, glory to God. And they're trying to say, well, take the same track as Elaine. I thought round two, here we go. And we're not anywhere near recovery. Of course, in Georgia today, we had the biolab going up in a massive flame and smoke. And they were having to do evacuations, and that just created another big mess. I can imagine I don't know what caused that, or I don't know if there was any loss of life. I don't know anything about that. We were traveling today, seeing family, and I was just looking at the news. I think Rockdale was where that was at, right off of I-20. You can see that easily online. Just a massive fire of chemicals and different things. I don't even know if they knew what was released. So we've got these environmental things going on. Now that's not related to storm, I wouldn't think, but with everything else going on, then we have this, this kind of thing going on. It's kind of interesting that it was a biolab. So you got all these areas up in Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky, Virginia, whatever, Southern Virginia. Devastated, trying to figure things out. I'm sure there's other areas as well, but these are the ones that jump out at us. Rivers over the banks, bridges washed away, people washed away. It's there's the Appalachia Facebook pages They're showing pictures of people and saying, we're looking for them. One lady was looking for her sister. She went to check on a rental cabin. There were people that tried to cross running water in their car, like sort of leaving work, after work. Saw one car go through. They tried, got stuck, were rescued, but there were others who died in those. Some people went to the roof of their home, and the roof caved in, and some people fell back into the water they was escaping from. It's amazing, you hear these news and people going up into their attic, and they were saying be sure to take an axe because the water may just trap you in there. It'll keep rising. There was one family, they were in a camper. They moved like 6 times. They kept helping other people, and the water kept rising just in minutes. They kept having to move their camper to further up to higher ground. So this is what these folks were dealing with. And so here we are, just a shade over a month away from election day. Of course, early voting sooner than that. And, you're trying to figure out, how you're going to survive. And it's just devastating. And I went to the FEMA page today, and I know that, they say they've got all these teams out there. They're in motion. Their applications are being, filled out for these people that are going through this. But where is the federal government right now? I just be honest with you, I don't see a lot of activity down here. We'll talk about that this week on the shows. But this is a political show and a news show, and I'd say, where's the federal government? Where's the presidential? Where's the flyover? The governors did. I mean, they're just talking about this utter devastation, how heartbreaking it is what they're seeing. Everything's overtaxed. There's people already shipping in, and these people at this press conference said there are truckloads of stuff that have came in. That's what we do. That's what good people do. They get help to people that need it. In another town, they were filling up a couple of 18-wheeler trailers, and today, and they're going to deliver those tomorrow. I mean, food and water and toiletries and all the different things that they might need, clothing or whatever. This is what we do. We turn out, we help our fellow man. That's that good American spirit, the good Christian spirit. And but where is the federal government? I know it's only been a couple 3 days, but where are they? I don't see a lot of evidence of that. I see, I know they're campaigning. I know there's things going on, but come on, this is an emergency. This is a devastation like we have not seen over a size of the area that it is, maybe ever. I just don't. It's just towns basically have disappeared. I mean, they're so damaged they're not even functioning, I'm sure, as a town. There's nothing to do there. I mean, everything's destroyed. And so that's what we're dealing with. And how does that affect election? I don't know. But I will say that North Carolina is a toss-up state, and I'm not putting that first. I'm just saying it's a fact that it is a possibility that it could affect those things. So there was a number of things that jumped out at me, and one of them I wanted to cover was, and I'm going to be flipping to different sites, and I will give full credit and announce those. I do have some things I'm going to pull up on the screen, but I do want to highlight a little bit of news, and I just pulled some different ones that I thought were worthy of kind of our time tonight, because there's really there's a lot going on. One of the most outspoken senators in the whole U.S. is from right next to us in the great state of Alabama, former coach Tommy Tuberville, Republican out of Auburn. And there's an article there on 1819 News that he called her our first AI presidential candidate. It's probably not a surprise. The article goes on to say, by the way, full credit, Jeff Poor, or poor. He might be like poor, but we're poor. It's probably not a surprise to most that U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican Auburn, does not think highly of Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic presidential nominee. His assessment, however, is not based solely on ideology or policy disagreements, but also on her ability to respond to the media. During an appearance on mobile radio FM Talk 106.5's The Jeff Poor Show, Tuberville called Harris the country's first AI, artificial intelligence. Of course, it stands for presidential candidate. Quote, "This is our first AI presidential candidate in Kamala Harris, meaning that everything that she does is artificial intelligence thrown out there in terms of doing interviews that are They come to a computer. How you answer? She doesn't answer. He said, but basically a computer does. So this is a different world, different time. President Trump has got the problems. He knows it, but you're not going to coop him up, and hopefully we can get more help for him. Tuberville added, and that was end quote. Tuberville added, quote, but they're not very realistic up there. And even the Republicans, I don't see a cry out for, hey, help the guy be able to campaign. But I tell you, I'm very disappointed, even a lot in the Republicans, unquote, or end quote. I just, he's very outspoken and he's not afraid to ruffle feathers, but he sees it. There's a lot of people that are not campaigning for him like they should. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, they're not rhinos and different ones that you would expect to do good, be out there really stumping for him. But they give lip service, but they're not doing what they should. It's fourth quarter, folks, right? It's fourth quarter for both candidates. It's really time, it's time to, it's time to bring it all together. Time to bring it home, boys. Time to get the hay in the barn. It's time. We got an election to win. Another one from I got a couple from 1819 News. I think 3. I do want to look at this one too. The Attorney General Marshall warns of Venezuelan gangs crossing the southern border. They make MS-13 look like choir boys. Now, he was on 1819 News. And this is Attorney General Steve Marshall. He was on the 1819 News, the podcast, Rumble. And the influx of Haitian migrants moving into Alabama. And we talked about that just a few days ago, right? These towns, these small towns, they've just, they're inundated with Haitians. They don't know how to talk to them. I mean, there's nobody, very few people could even translate if they have anybody. They don't know how many's been sent to them. There's a lot of secrecy about it. Local officials, a lot of things up in the air. They're not happy. And everybody around here, everybody that I know knows people there. I mean, they got family there. Some of them have family there. They know firsthand what's going on. So all I got to do is talk to people on the ground and hear, and they tell me, what they're dealing with. He warned that they're not the only ones flooding the border. On Wednesday's episode of 1819 News, the podcast, Marshall warned about Venezuelan gangs invading cities across the U.S. and how Alabama could be next in line. We are seeing more of the Haitian side of the numbers, at least right now in Alabama. But yet you're hearing the stories about Venezuelan gangs. They, by the way, make MS-13 look like choir boys, Marshall said. And those are now something that's very much on the radar of law enforcement. He said that bad actors have easily entered the country due to the policies of the Biden-Harris administration, the lack of a proper vetting process. Quote, it's a huge waiting list. And remember, these folks who don't have to show up at the border crossing to declare the reason why. They're doing it through an app. They're flying over here in an airplane, going through certain destinations. And then at that point in time, from what I can tell from the work that they've done since this first came about, there's no follow-up. He goes on to say about this situation. There's no understanding of where people have gone. There's no tracing. There's no traceability of this. There's no understanding of where people have gone. There's no understanding of where people are employed. That's one of the things they complained about to their elected leaders, and the elected leaders were saying the same things. We don't have any traceability. They're trying to introduce some bills. They're frustrated. By the way, I heard a figure today that 5% of Haiti's population has came to America. 5%. Think about that. There's no understanding of where people are employed. There's no follow-up with sponsors to say, what are you doing to live up to the obligation that you submitted to us to take care of the people that are coming over here, end quote. While people who express concern about immigration are deemed racist by the left, Marshall said the illegal immigrants coming in are also often victims of abuse by the system. That's absolutely true. There are rapes, there's slavery, there's all sorts of things that are going on with this. And it's so unfair to them. Quote, this is not fair to those individuals that are coming over from Haiti and other places, because if a sponsor is not there to be able to take care of them, what are they? They're left on their own, he said. They don't speak the language. They don't understand where to go or what to do. And then they are left potentially to deal with people that aren't there for good reasons, but instead be able to take advantage of them, end quote. He continued, quote, and so when we have these broader concerns about the welfare of those that are being brought into this country, that's somehow and other dismissed. And I don't think at all that's lost on the people that are just simply saying, how can government do this to us without us even having knowledge to begin with? Because there's no doubt, I don't think anybody can argue this, that if you're brought in this country and you don't speak the language, there are increased societal costs that will have to be expended to integrate you into society, end quote. Well said. Citizens are frustrated, the politicians are frustrated, and yes, these immigrants are frustrated as well. Think about that. I was reading about some that went up into the Washington State, the Seattle area and places like that. And let me tell you what, there was a lot of the sponsors that fed them a load of bull. They got up there, and what was told them was not accurate, and uh, they had this hotel that they wanted to put them out in these tents, and the tents were, it was really cold. There was a church up there, and I wish I could remember the name. And they were trying to help these people, but their supplies were limited. They were appealing for help. They had people sleeping all over the church and the fellowship hall and everything else. They were doing their best to get blankets to them and food to them. The immigrants themselves were pitching in and doing work and cooking and cleaning and doing all this stuff. I mean, they were trying. And, they were getting mad at these sponsors saying, hey, what are you doing to us? They're just dumping them off. And, they hit the road. And, they fly these people in the dead of the night. There's kids involved. Nobody knows seemingly what's going on, or who's in charge, and you got people just all over the place. So I mean, it is a big mess. It is a big mess, and I don't have all the answers, but I know this: it should have been handled at the border. Absolutely, it should not have came into our into the country like that. So it's just really truly unfortunate as we think about uh, those kinds of things. So I really like that 1819 News has, really tried to stay on top of that. One more from them. Now, President Trump was at the Alabama Georgia game Saturday night, which was not much of a game until later in the game. There was just not not a good game, but President Trump was there, so Georgia fans were joking, it was his fault. That he was there, rooting for Bama, and he called him in to win. No, he's a classic, and nobody wants to lose. But I did see this now, and he's not neglecting other states that are. I mean, Alabama's safely, I would say, a Trump state, but there is but people are still campaigning, and they're making sure. But Trump boat parade planned down Intercoastal Waterway, Baldwin County Republicans hope to garner enthusiasm. So you remember the carpools, the car parades and stuff. There's still that going on. The boat parades are, greatly important. So they're still working things. Republican Party down in Baldwin County, and they're making sure, because there's a lot of Democrats in Alabama. I'm not saying that, but it's fairly safely should go Trump. I would say it's trending that way, and it has, and it should. But on October 19th, the Baldwin County Republican Party, this is also from 1819 News in Alabama, is sponsoring a Trump boat parade along the Gulf Coast on October 19th. Timberly Lauer is organizing the parade, which will begin at 11 a.m. near Sailboat Bay, where Mobile Bay meets the Intercoastal Waterway, ICW, and it will end at the wharf. Lauer said the parade will travel at idle speed so onlookers can gather and bank and cheer. We're looking to get some groups out on the canal to cheer us as well, and set up a place for people to buy Trump merchandise through the Republican Party. Always got to make the money, right? He said all the proceeds will go back in the local party and to our local candidates. Well, that's good. This is to get out the awareness that we need more registered voters as well as registered Republicans in Baldwin County. We don't do enough events south of Robertsdale. So it's important to engage our coastal community, Lauer added. Quote, we're fiscally conservative. We believe in the flag, he said. We believe in our veterans, and I believe that those values translate over to what Donald Trump brings to America. And we'd like to see America take on those beliefs just as much as Baldwin County, end quote. Organizers expect 300 to 500 boats. That would be a fun outing. I think I've seen one. I've never been in one, but I think that would be a fun event. I think, so. a little bit about the boat parade. I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene's went on some. I think those were in Georgia, but she probably Lake Lanier. I would think that they did those, but they would. I don't know. There's still some that do them, but I think in 2020 there were a lot more of those car parades. But as it's gotten closer now, I think you'll see a lot more of that, of people getting out and flying their flags, and it's getting down to crunch time. Um, let's see here. There's this story about Kamala claiming to have worked at McDonald's, but she has no receipts for that. Why is it that the left wants to lie so much about what they've done? I mean, why can't they just, why can't they just, I know they're trying to identify, but I mean, a lie is a lie is a lie. But I know, I guess they feel like nobody's going to call them on it. This is an article from Town Hall. Carolyn Castor. I thought this is not real long. I thought it was pretty cute, and it's true. She said, "I've had a lot of jobs. No, seriously, a lot of jobs, more than 80. That's a lot. I can't claim that because I worked at one place a long, long time. I get it. Sometimes you do a lot in your life. Sometimes you work jobs for just temporary times, schooling and stuff like that." She said, "I've done everything you can imagine, from roofing to being a busboy. Well, I've done a little bit of roofing, a lot of busboy. From making sandwiches in a deli in an office building to being a press secretary in the United States Senate. I was even a Mary Maid for an hour. I filled out the paperwork, watched the training video, realized it was not for me, and told the supervisor and walked out. There isn't much I haven't done, and much I did for a very short time. I had an attitude when I was younger." There's a lot of people can say that. "I've quit, been fired, and stopped showing up. I skipped a week of work as a bartender at Red Lobster to visit my then friend in college. I then went back, and no one said a word. The one thing that all my jobs had in common is that I actually had them. I can provide details about each one, what the job entailed, where it was, coworkers, funny stories, etc., because I actually did them. Kamala Harris hasn't done anything of the sort with the job, quotation marks, at McDonald's," which makes me think she's lying about it to cover for the fact that she grew up a wealthy, privileged child of two tenured professors. Of course, we know Kamala grew up with money. Both her parents came to the United States from the third world to get their iPads, or their PhD, excuse me, not iPads. My eyes danced on me there. And poor families from the third world can't afford to send their kids around the world for an advanced degree, let alone get them the other degrees needed to get them in a position to go for an advanced degree. The story is all part of the myth, and you only have to create a myth around yourself and your life if the truth does you no favors. A little bit more. Growing up rich isn't what Democrats want to hear, so you just lie. Kamala Harris is from Oakland, they say, but she isn't. She's from and grew up in wealthy Berkeley. She was born in Oakland because that's where the hospital she was born in was. Most people born in Detroit in the 70s and 80s, and probably long before, grew up outside the city. It's just that the city was where the hospitals were. Place of birth is geography. Where you grew up helped mold who you are. Kamala wants people to believe that something that isn't true, in an odd attempt to get credibility with middle-class voters she's unable or unwilling to earn through truth-telling. And how often do we see this? I mean, me and Robert were joking about the people, the news people, and some politicians claiming they were, landing in a hot spot, a war zone, under fire, in Afghanistan and Iraq and different things, and it never happened. And of course, they got called on it and couldn't prove it, couldn't get the receipts, as they say, and they ruined their careers. Mostly, they still earn a living and they still do some things. Most of them ruined their careers because, I mean, they just lied. They just flat out lied, and you know. We know that what is it they say? We know how a politician's lying when they open their mouth. Well, there's a lot of truth in that, but I'm not going to say all the time, and not every politician, but there is a lot of truth in that they do tell lies, and I thought that was quite interesting. a little a little bit of a funny, but because there's truth there, but it's also funny. But they tell these faraway stories, and they can't they can't back it up. I mean, what? And I was laughing about what was the I think I did it on the air here too. It was the rapper that tried to be inner city but was really raised middle class, wealthy. Was that Vanilla Ice? I might get it wrong, but Vanilla Ice, I think so it was. He lost his credibility, right? They're always looking for street cred to identify, and they can't identify. So, yeah. What about this story? And I think I have 2 articles on it, and I want to go there now before we do a break. This restaurant, and let's go there from the New York Post. This has been all over the news. This was from Shane Galvin. Um, well, maybe you got receipts on that. I mean, you're welcome to put it on there. I'm not putting that on there. Show the receipts. That's a comment. You're welcome to them. And so, oh yeah, obviously you're not a Trump supporter, and that's fine. Just I hope you go vote. I mean, that's what I would say. Be a voter and go vote and be involved. That's the beauty of what we have in America, and to be active as an American. And I have voted since I was 18 years old, and will continue to vote till the day I die. And that is your vote, and that is your right to feel that way. So, but I would just like to know if you're excited about the your selection. Are you so excited about that? Do you think that that's any better? Interesting. But I don't know what it is about restaurant. To me, if you run a business, the stupidest thing you can do is take sides. You don't have to hide your politics. I mean, you can say, people know if you're kind of conservative or liberal or middle of the road or whatever, but to totally make yourself look stupid. And that's what this is. And it continues to happen. And for some reason, a lot of it's in Pennsylvania. I've been in Pennsylvania quite a bit. I love the state. There's some odd things there about this, but JD Vance shows up to do the, it's classic. They stop into the restaurant, the little diner, the restaurant or whatever. Sometimes they're there to eat, but a lot of times they're there to stump a little bit. It's a press event. They go there and they go around, shake hands, and they get a little video of the people, talking and shaking hands, and they talk to everybody. Doesn't matter their form or not. And so they get to Primani brothers, and they were told they couldn't come in. Now they tried to throw this excuse out there that they didn't want to disrupt, and they didn't have the manpower. And so initially they told them that they were not given advance notice, that they couldn't come in. And JD handled it real well. He handled it absolutely incredibly well. Didn't make a scene. Just tried to talk about it, and then they changed it up. And so they finally let him in. There were a lot of people that came out of the restaurant. They were there to see him. They were expecting it. To me, why would you do your okay? Say you just can't stand the candidate, but still, why would you do that? If I run a business, and again, I'm a Christian, I pray for all of them. I pray for the president. I pray for the vice president. I pray for everybody that God brings to my mind in the Congress or in my local and state and federal, whatever it is. And if I had a restaurant and somebody come in, it's not my candidate, I'm going to treat them with the respect that they're due. As a human being and as a customer. And it's just ridiculous. But you know what? I mean, get what they get. So if it hurts their business, I mean, what do you expect? It's just ridiculous to do that. And I wasn't there, just going by what was in the news, but they go back and they talk about when Kamala's group went there, that they made the restaurant empty out, and they planted their own customers, their own paid professional, customers. Come on. You know what? You get what you get. I love, there's that unknown when you walk into a place and you walk in and you don't know. I mean, you've said you're coming. You could get nice, you could get ugly, you could get, contentious, you could get applause. You don't know what you're going to get. And I would say for both of them, when they've went in restaurants, that the staffs of these restaurants have been incredibly helpful and friendly, and they've not acted up. But there's in most of them, but there's always this one, like at every election cycle, there's always this one that says, I'm not, you're not welcome here. You're this, or we're close our doors or whatever. And So I don't understand, why they would do that. But if you take that track as a business, if you take that line, if that is what you want to do, then like they said, you're free to do whatever, but you got to deal with the consequences. I just think as a business owner, that's just don't do that. Be friendly to all, and even if you didn't want their business, you just still. And I'm not saying they were ugly. He says they're fine, and I'm not saying they did that. But I just think that really they just came in to, they were going to pay for everybody's meal, they were going to tip and do all that, and they were able to do that. And I hope I don't want nothing to happen to their business. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not calling for it, and I don't want to see a business suffer and go out of business. But people will make a choice. So it's like I said, I wouldn't condone a boycott. But I just think people will change their spending habits because of stories like that, and I just don't, I just think that that's silly as a business, for the politics. Now I know there are businesses that don't want to do business for religious reasons or whatever. I'm not talking about, this is not that. This is just that they wanted to come in, they wanted to eat, talk to some people, whatever. And shouldn't we want candidates doing that? Shouldn't we want them? And by the way, what kind of, I mean, think of the free publicity you get out of this. Now, they've gotten bigger publicity out of it, but it could turn on them. They always say, all publicity is profitable, even controversial for entertainers. Well, but for businesses, that your business could just dry up overnight, and that would be unfortunate because you have workers involved, and that's somebody's livelihood. And so I don't, I'm not big on trying to destroy people or businesses or whatever. But I will say this: you make people mad, then you push them into you push them into changing their spending habits. And I just think as a business owner, if you even if you don't care yourself and you say, well, whatever, we'll shut it down. Think about the workers. Think about those people. That's their livelihood. That's how they're feeding their kids or paying their mortgage or, paying their rent or uh, car insurance or whatever. They're spending money in the community. And why would you want to do something like that? So I just think that that's incredibly unfortunate that they would do that. Now, another news article that I want to get to, and then I'm going to do a break, is this one is out of the state of Alabama, and there have been several states. It's not just now. It just seems that I found a lot of information from Alabama. Seems like it happens that way. Different states, and there's different news that's popping out. But there have been some states that have purged the rolls, and they needed to because there were people that were dead. There were people that shouldn't have been on there. There were people that were, not eligible to register. There were people that were not didn't they were not, legal to register. Whatever the case may be, but it was a number that was done in Alabama. But it's interesting. That wasn't the controversy, although they don't like it. But the Department of Justice is suing Alabama, the state's top election official, for allegedly purging non-citizen voters too close to the election. So there is apparently this 90-day uh, rule that was put in place by law, and it was about 84. I'm trying to find the little. I think it was 84 days. So it was not 90 or more, and so it was 84 days that he implemented the changes. But he took the stand that he said, "quote I've been clear that I will not tolerate the participation of non-citizen in our elections." End quote. Allen previously said in a release, quote, "I have even gone so far as to testify before a United States Senate committee regarding the importance of this issue. We have examined the current voter file in an attempt to identify anyone who appears on that list that has been issued a non-citizen identification number," end quote. Now, one of the problems with this, and the reason that he took this action was, according to the article, non-citizen identification numbers are a tax processing number used by the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, to ensure that people, including undocumented immigrants, pay taxes. Along with paying taxes, non-citizen identification numbers can provide legal migrants with securing a driver's license and providing proof of residency. So, there are those issues like that. So this it'll be settled in, they'll figure it out in court. But I know, this was not a huge number. By the way, I didn't give you the number. It was 3,251. 32, not a huge number, but it is a number, and it is people. And so they needed to be off there. The question was not whether they needed to be off the roll, was the question of the days before the election. Isn't that a weird dynamic? We have the dynamic of all these states that allow same day registration. Some of them do. There are a number of states that allow that, but we have this limited number of states that cannot purge the roll within past 90 days, close, or getting less than 90 days before an election. I just thought that was interesting. So we're going to see a lot of that. There's going to be legal challenges after this election. No matter who wins, there's going to be legal challenges. That's just the era we're in. Whether they'll go anywhere, do anything about it, or stop the certification or whatever, who knows? But there are lawyers standing by, as they say, and there's going to be a lot of messaging on this. So you're just going to see a lot of news about it. And I mean, all the way back to really, and I know there were some before, but really, if you go back to Bush Gore, that was really the start of where they just signed a massive number of lawyers and have them ready, and they're looking for anything. So, and I get it. Both sides have done it. So you're going to see that. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. And a few more news articles, and then I want to get into this polling we're going to look at some polling around the country in toss-up states, and then dig just a little deeper in Georgia to show where those polling numbers came from as far as how they polled. I just thought it was interesting because those are important things. If you see a number, kind of how did they get that number? So I thought that was interesting. So we'll be right back. The Southern Fried Podcast now has its own store. Go to sfplive.com/store. These links are also found on Facebook and X and some of the other social streams. You will find shirts and hats and mugs and bags and all kinds of items with many different designs. These are just but a few of the more than 250 items that we have with different designs. We hope you'll come and shop, support the podcast. Every dollar that is paid will go towards keeping the podcast growing, and we thank you for your support. sfplive.com/store. Go shop today and get that favorite person in your life their Southern Fried Podcast item, and it'll help us advertise the podcast as you wear these things or take these things out into the public. We thank you for your support. If you have any questions, email us at southernfriedpodcast@yahoo.com. We'll be glad to answer. We're running some specials as well, 20, 25, and even 30% off in some cases. This will eliminate the mailing charges for sure. So go to sfplive.com/store for your Southern Fried Podcast items today. Remember, Christmas is just around the corner. Thank you. The Southern Fried Podcast is pleased to announce our newest show called Southern Talk. We merged two shows called Manners and Mannerisms 101 into this new show that we felt would better fit our interest in talking all things Southern. So join us for Southern Talk, where we still cover all those manners and customs that we are known for in the South. But now we can expand the topics and reach of this show in a show called Southern Talk with Rob and Dave.
Hello, folks. Just got finished an interview with the Southern Fried Podcast about the upcoming movie called The Keeper. It's in movie theaters nationwide. It'll be streaming in November. It's about a veteran who attempted to hike the Appalachian Trail, successfully ended the trail while fighting his battle with PTSD. It's based on a true story. I hope y'all go see it. It has a wonderful message. It's a very powerful movie. But yeah, please go see it.
Hey, this is Dave with the Southern Fried Podcast. Please join us each Wednesday evening as we go live for Hump Day News, where we talk about a little bit of everything. We'll laugh a little bit. We'll tell you a little bit of sports news and other news that's going on. Each Wednesday evening at 7 p.m., join us for the SFP Hump Day News live. You're midweek, making your way through another work week. Join us, and we'll try to make you laugh a little bit and keep your day a little brighter. Hey, this is Dave with the Southern Fried Podcast. You know, one of the favorite things that we do is sit out on the front porch with a glass of sweet tea and just talk about whatever. That's what you do on the front porch. Wave at the neighbors as they go by, or even a stranger. We're friendly people, and we like to just talk about whatever. You never know what Rob and Dave are going to talk about on the front porch, and sometimes Chris joins us, and then you really don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll laugh a little bit, we'll shock each other, and maybe, just maybe, you'll join in with us and chat with us on the front porch. Join us live for Front Porch Talking each Friday night at 7 p.m. That's your friends here at the Southern Fried Podcast. Here at the Southern Fried Podcast, one of the blessed things we've been able to do is partner with the wonderful people at Animal Rescue Alliance, Inc., ARA. These folks are a no-kill shelter in Donaldsonville, Georgia. You see the contact info on the screen. And these folks would love to have you come adopt a dog or a cat. They have folks that come from all over the United States, not just the state of Georgia. They're great folks. It's been a wonderful partnership between Southern Fried Podcast and ARA. And we've been blessed to meet some of the folks that have adopted animals from ARA. Also, we've been able to encourage people to donate and volunteer. They encourage volunteers that are in the area, and they're just wonderful people. We'd love for you to contact them, meet them too, go on their website, see some of the animals, and we know you'll want to partner with them too by taking a dog or a cat to their forever home. Join with us, the Southern Fried Podcast, in support of this great work of the Animal Rescue Alliance, Inc., ARA. We know you'll be happy you did. I know we are. Hey, here at the Southern Fried Podcast, we've got a new morning show. Well, it's actually the same show, but we added a day. We're now on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at 6 a.m., and we go till about 7, maybe a little after if we're having a really good show and we just want to keep it going for a few minutes, but it's usually about 6 to 7. We hope you join us. And as our tagline says, nobody really wants to get up, but since you're up, grab a cup of coffee and join us. Hopefully we can get you started on your day talking about a little bit of sports or news, have a little laughter. Everybody needs that in the morning, along with that caffeine. And hey, we're trying to get you awake. You might be trying to get us awake. So join in the chat. Let us know what's going on. Sometimes our best programs are from the chats that people tell us some things that are going on, or remind us of some things, or correct us on some things. Hey, all the above. We hope you join us on the Southern Fried Podcast morning show, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Have a great day in Dixie, and God bless. And we're back. And I always liked that guy locally. His name, great guy, Gary Mack. He'd say, "I'm Gary Mack, and I'm back." He had been off or out of the area, I think, of Chattanooga for a while, and then came back, and he had that little tagline, "I'm Gary Mack, and I'm back," and I like that. So I think about that. Speaking of the morning show, we'll be back in the morning, 6 a.m., bright and early. Be looking at our city that we give a shout out to, odd name cities from around the country, a lot of them in the South, but not all of them. We'll get an update on some of the hurricane issues and stuff like that. We'll talk a little bit about sports, and we'll just continue to talk about this week and the debate and stuff like that. But we tend to keep it a little lighter on the morning shows. And tomorrow night, Mama said, and I'm hoping that we're going to have a guest with us on stage. Also, I'd like to add in, we were supposed to interview today 3rd District Representatives of Mitchell Horner today. I think I said that right. If I did, he'll correct me when he comes on. And we would have had that released already this evening, but he was sick with all the weather and everything. He was sick, and so he asked if when I was headed to church, I got that, and he wanted to know if he could switch it. And I said, absolutely. We're going to cater to those things. It happens. Things happen. And so I just told him to let us know when he's feeling better. And we'll try to get that here in a few days or a week or so. I'm sure as we're in this election season, it won't be long, just a few days. And so we are still going to do it. It's just been delayed because due to sickness. And we've all dealt with something like that. So you know how that is. Well, just a few news and notes from around some of the sites, and I just picked a few. Some are conservative, some are liberal, and just can't do them all. There's so much news, but I just some that caught my eye. Out on the stump and campaigning, and again, Pennsylvania is a toss-up state. It's heavily fought over. And this one was from Newsmax. Former President Donald Trump, speaking in Erie, Pennsylvania, Sunday, promised the state's oil workers that those state's workers will be fracking, drilling, pumping, and producing like they never have produced before. Drill, baby, drill. I mean, that's a popular one for him, and a lot of people want to hear it. Doesn't matter that others may not like that. It is something that definitely it's one of those rah moments, and it's easy to remember, and people like that. So he said that his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, has vowed repeatedly to ban the use of fracking to produce energy, and that is starving your state right now of your wealth. Quote, she imposed a ban on natural gas, said Trump. Her insane electric vehicle mandate is where everybody's going to have an electric car within a very short period of time, but maybe not everybody wants an electric car, end quote. So he also went on to say that these vehicles will be made in China. Well, they're certainly going to be made south of the border for sure. He talked about the Teamsters and United and the auto workers supporting him, and he went on a few other things. I won't read the whole article. By the way, there is a strike that is to occur on the East Coast. This could be interesting. Could hang some things up. Not sure. They don't want they want the worker to work. They don't want to have those automation things. Interesting strike. I work in manufacturing, and I can tell you that in every area where we have placed those things, it was better for the workers because they didn't have to do repetitive, ergonomically bad, work practices that had been done for decades that way. It took those repetitive lifting and things like that, and we just viewed some of those I think it was a week ago, Monday or Tuesday one. I think it was Monday. Was with a high school robotics team, and they love that kind of stuff. And the manufacturing workplace is changing, and they're putting those things in there so that they don't have to, that the human doesn't have to do all that, the repetitive with forced manual labor and the problems that causes. They can be trained in a more high skilled trades to take care of those things. And so all these kids were way into that, I can tell you. And so it's an interesting tack, that they want to do. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, it was interesting. That is going. That's a lot of people involved up and down the Eastern Seaboard. So well, you're welcome, from the Porter Road Church of God. Let put this up here. I just think that it's going to, and I'm not per se taking sides on it. I think it's impactful, especially right now. We're trying to get goods and services moved, and there could be an impact to that. And that's American workers' right to strike, especially those that are union. And it just was interesting to me. I need to study more on what's behind this. But I think, if I'm not correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that may be Monday that's supposed to start. That's going to be highly impactful. They're calling for, I think 100% participation all up down the East Coast. And boy, here we are. We got this mess of stuff going on in the country right now with infrastructure and everything else from the storm. And now we may have this laid in our laps. That's interesting. Oh, and by the way, let me say God bless you for, being out there, getting the word out and rallying the God's army, the kingdom work. That's the number one. That's above everything. And so praying for our country. I know y'all would do that. But if you have thoughts on it, put them in there. We'll definitely post them up. But it is, those things are going to have an impact. And so that's what I was saying in the beginning. We've already got impact of people that may be impacted about, do they even get out and vote? I'm not saying that should be used as an excuse, but your life's turned upside down. You may have, dealing with funerals. You maybe not have a place to live. You may not have roads to get to the precinct. The precincts may be impacted. There may be no power, no running water, no sewage. There's a mess in some of these areas, and it's bound to affect that. Now you have this strike that's going to occur. We'll try to get on that a little bit this week, also in our other programs, and maybe touch on that a little bit. Maybe even tomorrow, if it does go into effect tomorrow. So, my aunt was a member of one of the unions, or not my aunt. Excuse me. She's deceased now, but my mother-in-law. I don't know why I said aunt. And she went through a number of strikes. My dad was a member of a union in manufacturing and foundries for years, and I can remember him going on strike. And they generally were not that long. It was always hard on us for that time. I can tell you that his working conditions didn't get a lot better, but definitely, oh yes, sir, we definitely need to pray for the folks in Western North Carolina. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the program. It is absolutely devastating. Absolutely devastating. And we join with you in prayer. We prayed today at our church. We had a church fellowship, but before our singing service, we did that, and that's what I was talking about. Like I said, I watched the interview. I was headed up the mountain to go to church, and I was just, it broke my heart to see these officials, and they're upset. They don't know what to do. I mean, they're absolutely on overload. They have no answers. I mean, what do you do when everything's just destroyed? When you've got people missing, when you have infrastructure that's basically totally destroyed some portions of your area, people can't even get to them without four-wheelers. There's no workable sewage. Water is impacted to some people, power to some people. Schools, fortunately, they were on fall break. But the school, he said, I can guarantee you right now, there's no way, because I think this week was fall break and the next week was go back. He said, there's no way in 2 weeks we're ready, or a week from Monday, that we'll be ready to go back to school. Some of these schools are being used for staging, shelters, men and equipment, whatever. I mean, they usually have a big parking lot, so it's easy. It's somewhere they can set up. There was one church up there, a Free Will Baptist, that they were using as a place to get people, services there, and have people feed them. I think it was a place that would feed them and get them a meal. The ones that come. I mean, a lot of them, they were having to deliver the meals by four-wheeler. And so, yes, absolutely. And we stand with you. Don't know if you're the pastor or whatever, but appreciate Porter Road Church of God. Where's Porter Road Church of God at? We'll give you a shout out to your city, state, whatever. Appreciate you being in the stream tonight. And yes, we're continuing to work through. Let me also put up here another, well, let's just talk about it a little more, because I did bring it up, but I do want to. It's Tuesday. I'm sorry. It was Tuesday that's going to start. The East Coast port strike to start Tuesday. The port strike on the U.S. East Coast and Gulf of Mexico. This is from, again, this one is from Newsmax as well. We'll go ahead starting on Tuesday. The International Longshoremen's Association Union said on Sunday, signaling action that could cause delays and snarl supply chains. Like, we've already got a mess anyway, and it's going to get worse. The United States Maritime Alliance refuses to address a half century of wage subjugation. The union said in a statement, the United States Maritime Alliance, known as USMX, represents employers of the East and Gulf Coast longshore industry. If union members walk off the job at ports stretching from Maine to Texas, my goodness, what a stretch. It would be the first coastwide ILA strike since 1977, affecting ports that handle about half, do you hear me? Half the nation's ocean shipping. A source said no negotiations are taking place Sunday, and none were currently planned before the midnight Monday deadline. The union said previously the strike would not impact military cargo shipments or cruise ship traffic. The White House did not immediately comment on the union statement. Early on Sunday, President Joe Biden said he did not intend to intervene to prevent a walkout if dock workers failed to secure a new contract by the October 1st deadline. It's collective bargaining, I don't believe. And Taft-Hartley, he told reporters, presidents can intervene in labor disputes that threaten normal security or safety, by imposing an 80-day cooling off period under the federal Taft-Hartley Act. Reuters first reported on September 17th that Biden did not plan to invoke that provision, citing a White House official. A strike could stop the flow of everything from food to automobiles at major ports. When we think about in Georgia now, that's where I'm at, in South Georgia, Savannah, Brunswick area and all that. That's a major part of what they bring in there is the automobiles, but a little bit of everything. It's one of the biggest ports in the nation, and of course New Orleans. But there's so many of them. They warned that could jeopardize jobs and stoke inflation weeks ahead of the U.S. presidential election. Business Roundtable, which represents major U.S. business leaders, said it was deeply concerned about the potential strike at the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports. I didn't hear about the Gulf Coast originally, just the East Coast. That's even bigger. The group warned a labor shortage could cost the U.S. economy billions of dollars daily, hurting American businesses, workers, and consumers across the country. Urged both sides to come to an agreement before Monday night's deadline. This is 36 ports that this affects, and it is absolutely incredible. So just another thing to put on the prayer list. I mean, that's incredible, and I've never heard of one that big. I remember a number of years ago in my company, we were waiting on, of all things, safety shoes to be delivered to our vendor who could then deliver them to us. And I remember there was a guy, he's a good friend, and he wore a really big shoe. And they had a lot of stuff in stock, but everything, I mean, let's face it, everything comes out of China or something like that. It could be a Vietnam or somewhere like that, but a lot of it was China. These particular shoes were coming out of China. And since we had to order his, since it was such a big size, and I mean big, I don't think it was a 14 or 15, something like that. And I was just taking it over, and it had already been delays. And I told him that I would get him some answers, and I was going to get those shoes to him. And I remember the day that I was on the phone with the vendor, and the vendor told me about the West Coast strike, and they will not unload the ships. They won't load the ships. They won't put them on the rail cars or anything. Everything is at a standstill. And he said, your shoes are in a huge shipment that we're waiting on, sitting on a dock in California. Sounds like a song title. And so I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to go out here and tell him this, and he's not going to believe this story. And so I went out there and I said, this is the absolute truth. I would not lie to you. I said, but it's going to sound like the biggest fib ever. And he just already turned his head to the side, like, okay, give me the story. And so I told him, and he said, well, I have these within at least the next 3 months. And I said, yes. I said, I cannot see it taking that long, but I didn't know. I kind of stretched it there a little bit, but I didn't see it being that long, or we would just go to another plan. But it ended up taking about it ended up being settled fairly quickly. And I think it's about 3 weeks we had them, which was record time considering what was going on. I heard, it was amazing. I mean, one day shutdown in a port, any port, it just locks it down. There's so many things that are shipped like that. I mean, just think of all the goods that are coming across the ocean, and all those steel containers, and then all the trucks that are sitting. That affects our truckers, our rail lines, and all those things. So, I talked to a guy once, and I'll get back in the news here. He picked up cars down at Brunswick, Georgia, and he talked about how many loads he moved and everything. That's all he did. That's what he did. He would take he'd go down with an empty car carrier, and then he would go down, pick up his new cars, and then truck them back up. And then, he'd be doing that for 4 days straight, or didn't get a couple of days break and go home. But he said he loved it, and that's what he did. But he said, oh yeah, there's just trucks lined up one after the other to pick up all those new cars that are coming off those ships. And I had friends that were actually port workers. They had worked in the area and they lost their jobs. They ended up going, somebody got them in down there, and some of them became supervisors. One guy said was a manager. He said, if you come down, I'll get you a job. I'll make you a supervisor. And I was like, well, I don't think I want to move that far. I didn't want to be below the gnat line for sure, but I thought the money might be pretty good. But he said he said, that's mainly what I deal with is the new cars. And he named the companies that were the car manufacturers that were shipping through there. Of course, we had the ship that sunk, in the channel, and they had to, Corps of Engineers had to get that thing up. It was a big mess. But it takes a long time to straighten out the supply chain once it's messed up. And by the way, on that note, there's absolutely these poor people in some of these areas, because it doesn't take much to disrupt the fuel, right? 3 days supply, whatever. Everybody in those areas, one of the things they added into their preparation was extra fuel. So there comes the containers out. So you're filling up extra cans. Well, now, and there was one store, I'm trying to remember where this is at. I think it was in that Western North Carolina area. I think there was some in Georgia too, but there were cars stretched for miles. They just trying to get some gas. They're desperate. And there was a report today that there were roving bands. Now, this is how quickly society can collapse, and this is serious business, folks. And here we are now. Again, let me just say, not that we've forgotten, but class, tick, tick, tick. I'm going to use my little stick to hit on the board. Pay attention now. 30-something days, 36, 37, whatever it is. I think it was 37, maybe. I'm right around that. To Election Day and all the things that we got going on. And it's like the closer we get, the more things are happening. And, nobody could plan the weather, so the conspiracy theorists could say, "Well, no, we didn't send Helene up the eastern seaboard, affecting all these poor areas." But God knew it was going to happen, absolutely. And so yeah, you got all these things being affected now, but there were roving bands of thieves. I mean, and they were stealing generators from people. It doesn't quite take long when people are hungry and maybe of the lesser sort, the baser sort of people, and they just think, well, you got it, I'm taking it. I said that to a guy years ago. This is probably 25 years ago, and I was talking to him. He was a cattleman. He worked as a maintenance man in manufacturing, but he ran about 80 to 100 head of cattle. And he said, "No, I'd give somebody who was hungry. I'd kill them out and give them some steak or whatever." I said, he said, "But a thief or whatever." He said, "I got something for him." And I said, "So you're going to stop the horde when they come in?" And he said, "The horde?" I said, "Do you think it's going to be one guy? It's going to be more than you can handle. They're going to overrun you, man." And that's exactly what was happening here. It was not just one or two people. It was a roving gang of people. Now, listen, here we got all these people that just came in the country. We just talked about that. No traceability. Don't know. There's nobody knows. Somebody don't know where they're at. They don't know they just show up. They come into the country. They don't speak the language. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them. Some of them come out of cultures that are not stable. Certainly Haiti's not, and Venezuela's not, and others. And you don't think they're not going to resort to stealing and taking and getting, because that's the lifestyle they come out of. That's survival for them. And they're thinking, well, I ain't got nothing now, I'm taking it. And so we'll say, well, we'll call 911. How much do you think they're going to be able to handle that? This could become a military situation if things got really bad. I mean, the National Guard for sure. And I don't know that they're not involved already in this situation that's going on, but the National Guard should be active right now in some of these areas. They need help. These local officials and their small forces and everything, and the state's involved, but after all, there's only so many. Everybody's cut back. I went by a car lot earlier. It's attached to a major car seller, and they have a used car. And it was we rode by there earlier. We were getting back from our trip when we went to see some family. And it's totally empty. And I said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know they had closed that down." I said, "This just tells you how bad it is." They were selling cars left and right out of there. I talked to a guy that runs a small business. I mean, he sold boats and stuff. He said, "Well, it's not good right now. Nobody wants to buy a boat with all that's going on." So these are the things that are starting to happen, and price is just crazy. I went into one of those big, I won't say the name because I'm going to be a little, and I'm not blaming just them. That's why I don't want to say the name, but one of those exits where you stop at one of the big stores, they got the big store, big bathrooms, everything, lots of pumps. It doesn't matter which one. I went in and I was just walking around looking for a little snack. We were kind of traveling. I was getting one little thing. And I thought, I'll just get a little snack. And I was walking down looking at the snacks, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. I'm not paying that. And I found they had a Subway in there, and the Subway, I will name the Subway, and the Subway had put out there. I think it was wise of the Subway to do this. They got great cookies, by the way. And they had these cookies out there, and they had them marked down, and they weren't bad. I mean, the price wasn't bad, and that's what I bought. Great move by the Subway. They put them out on a little table where the customers see them coming in. I'm going to tell you, they beat the prices. They beat the pants off the prices of the store there. That's smart. That's good business right there. All right, back in the news, because we've got to get to those. I want to get to those polling numbers, and I want to get to this one. Let me get to this one. I'm not going to cover all these because there's just too much. But the debate's coming, and I want to do a couple things, and we're going to look at these because I don't want to run out of time. So Tuesday night, 9 p.m., CBS headline. This is from CNN. So I'm reading from different ones, and this was a CNN. And I'm going to give you a couple on this. Vance steps into debate spotlight, unpopular and unproven. I don't know who they're saying he's unpopular with, but with a knack for seizing the moment. So they give him a little credit. It's in the closing months of a crowded Republican primary for a U.S. Senate seat in Ohio, J.D. Vance found himself stuck in the middle of the pack. He appeared badly damaged by a barrage of ads painting the venture capitalist and former Donald Trump critic as an anti-MAGA San Francisco liberal. The pollster for a supportive super PAC warned that Vance's campaign was in a precipitous decline, arguing that he had failed to convince Republican voters of his conservative bona fides and loyalty to the former president. And I do remember those being said. This is pretty accurate and fair because there were those that said that. Vance needs a course correction ASAP, the pollster wrote in a February 2022 memo. It arrived a month later with the five main primary contenders meeting on stage for the umpteenth time. The two perceived frontrunners nearly came to blows as they stood nose to nose, one ready to fight while the other uttered a sexist expletive. Vance, seated at the edge of the stage, pounced. Think about what you just saw. The guy wants to be a U.S. Senator, and he's up here. Hold me back, Vance said to a loud applause. What a joke. Answer the question. Stop playing around. It was a breakthrough moment for Vance, one that led to a second look from GOP voters in his state and from Trump, who was closely watching the race but hadn't acquiesced to the voices of his party urging him to get involved. Clips of the exchange and other debate moments impressed Trump, sources told CNN, and played a role in Vance securing a race-defining endorsement from the former president. It was a big moment for the campaign, said a person involved with Vance's unsuccessful 2022 Senate bid, suggesting that the episode demonstrated his knack for seizing make-or-break opportunities on the debate stage. On Tuesday, that ability will be tested once again, and he is on the spotlight. Vance, now the Republican nominee for vice president, will join his Democratic counterpart, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, for the first time on a debate stage in New York. Vance, at just 40 years old and 2 years into his political career, is still a largely unproven commodity. I think that's fairly. I mean, I don't think that's far off base. He hasn't really done a whole lot yet, and there has been those questions. Also unknown is whether he can be successfully pick apart the Democratic ticket while improving, or at least not further jeopardizing his likability among voters. And then there's Vance's other audience of one, Trump, who often has his own benchmarks for a successful on-air performance. So, the stakes are high, and we know that. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I do think that was a fairly good. CNN put that together. I don't think that was bad. But I wanted to let me see if I can find that. I don't know if I've got the article in front of me, but there was one article that both of these men are nervous, wouldn't you be? And the question I had at the beginning, the question I was going to ask is who between J.D. Vance and Walz, who is more nervous in this debate and why? Now, anybody, would be nervous, right? Anybody would be nervous. Anytime you're on a stage of any kind, our dear friend here from Porter Road Church of God, we know that. We get up in front of a crowd. There's a reverence to what we're doing, and we're nervous. I mean, you want things right, and some people have a phobias about being in front of people. It can be difficult. Some people, that's just not for them. They can't do it. People ask me, how do you do that? And I said, oh, just the Lord blesses me, gave me the gift of gab. I'm a very shy person at nature. By nature, I'm just very shy. But I've overcame that. I'm getting older now. The filter's falling. I just, whatever. You don't want to criticize me, fine. But anybody be nervous on that debate stage. But who's more nervous and why? They both are nervous. But sources have said that Tim Walz is extremely nervous about this. And the reasoning why makes sense in this, if the sources are correct, with those dreaded quote unquote sources. One reason was he doesn't want to fail Kamala. Well, neither does J.D. Vance want to fail President Trump. So they're both equal on that. But I think he knows if he fails, maybe that's a signal. He knows she's in trouble. I think that's the pressure they're under right now. And she can't handle it. And he's being set out to be the folksy, middle America kind of guy. And if he fails in that, they don't got a lot left other than just people that hate Trump, people that are going to vote Democrat no matter what. But there's a lot of Democrats that don't want to vote, and they don't like either candidate. And I read some of those reports today, and some of them said they're voting for her, but, kind of holding their nose. They just don't like the pick. Others have said they're going with Trump. It's the economy. And they said, I don't really care for him, but it's the economy. He will make it better. Others have said, I'm not going to vote at all. And I have said from the beginning, I think one of the problems both candidates have is the undecided whether to vote or not. That's what I'm talking about. So anyway, I think they're both, nervous. And I would agree that he's probably a little more nervous about this, that being Tim Walz, because of that. So, all right. I don't think there's anything else here. I want to make sure to leave time in here, and I still have time. I want to pull up some of the graphics I have from this polling place. And I don't put a lot of stock in polls because it can be twisted, but there's only two that I really adhere to. And I don't really care for the others. So I think that's good on that. So wanted to look at, again, Georgia is a considered a toss-up state. It's very evenly divided. It has retained a very narrow, a couple 100,000 vote at the most, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on the election, to stay red. Georgia has had probably more money poured into it over the last 2 or 3 election cycles, governor, president, and so on. Maybe 4 election cycles, if we're talking about all of those. More money poured into it than maybe, and I'm not for sure on this, so don't quote me on it, but I would say maybe more than any state in the nation. The Democrats have vowed to turn Georgia blue, and there is a ton of money that's being sent in. The Republican Party has a problem in Georgia in that Governor Brian Kemp he's really become more of a centrist. If you look at what's going on with him, and he's at odds with the Georgia GOP, and there's lawsuits and bills, and he's got millions and millions, they say, in the bank, and this new, and I forget what they call it, kind of a third party kind of thing, but it's kind of the replacement, they're calling it, for the GOP. They don't play nice together, but he's come out and supported Trump. But anyway, it's a toss up. So let me get over here at some of my pictures that I did put together. And I want to start off, and I just want to look at, let me find slide 1 here. I'll be behind this now. You won't see me for a minute, but I do want to show these. Bada boom. And so you see the polling agency listed up there in the top right. They do a lot of different kinds of things for companies and stuff too. They can break down data in many, many different ways. They don't just do this. But we see, and some of my things up here at the top may cover that up, but we'll look at different states, and you can see some of the numbers. 46. Let me take that banner down. We don't need that right now. Take that down so you can see that, and you can see how close this is as we look at this. So just a few different states here, very, very close. 46.2, 44.5. and then a little bit out there for other. Now in Georgia in 2020, and we looked at that a few weeks ago. We looked at. She'll be all right. She'll be all right. No, she can't. Yeah, she'll be all right. Sorry, panic for the dog. She's okay. There was Jill Stein, I think it was, that got I think it was Stein, 62,000 votes. They talk about the 11,000 plus, and that was the difference, not the 11,000. The 62,000 went there. So the undecideds are huge, and so we see that 46.2, 44.5. Slide number 2, we see here 47.5 and 45.3. Numbers dropped just a little bit. They're a little stronger in the actual two major parties, and so we see. I should have put the state a little bit down. I know there's going to be behind that, but we see another one, 45.3. So the point of all this is just to say that these are very close. 40, it bumps a little bit, but this one has Kamala now with a very slight edge in that state. And so as we go through slide number 4, we see again Trump back a little bit on 47.1, 45.5. Again, they're just really close, and I think these are fairly accurate. I do like their data. I like what they do, and they usually are on top of it. And this one, again, Trump, and we just see that. So, but I wanted to get down to, and this when we go back to Georgia, and I'm sorry you can't see him behind there, but when we look at Georgia, I wanted to just drill down just a little bit and look at how they got that number, because I think that's important, because that's one of the problems that polls have is they where did they get the data? How did you manipulate the data? All that stuff. So I wanted to give you what that looked like. So if we're looking at Georgia and we look at where did that number come from? Well, this poll was conducted in Georgia. There's the state. It's showing the state, so you know it's from Georgia. 9/12 to 9/15, 1,098 respondents, likely 2024 general election voters. Response rate 3.7, margin of error 2.9. There's always a margin of error. Confidence 95%, response distribution 50%, methodology, and we see who put that together. This Trey Falger group, and they have been real respected. They're not as well known as some of the others, but like Rasmussen, but there's a lot of people that respect them. And in 2020, I was really put into their polls in looking at them, and it played out. So we saw that. So let's go to the next slide, and we see where this kind of split at. So the Republicans of the ones they responded to are the 1,098, 37.9 Republicans, 34.2% Democrat, and then 27.9 no party or other. That's significant. They didn't identify as a Republican or a Democrat. So, and that's in Georgia. And I think there's probably a big number. Now, in talking to the elections official that we talked to in Georgia, even on the best elections, there's about 30%, maybe slightly less. Maybe we could go down to 25 of registered voters that could vote that don't turn out. Will that change this time? We'd like to hope so, but I don't think so. I think it's just there's going to be people that say my vote don't count. It don't matter, whatever the case may be. And so that's a big number when we look no party or other. Of course, that would take in the other. That could be Green Party. That could be. There's a lot of different parties. That could be people that just say I don't identify them. I'm an independent. I don't identify as those. There's a lot of things that can make that number out. I would like to see that broke down if they were able to get the data, no party or other, but really 28% if we're looking at that. Slide number 8, and slide number 8, and we see here the breakdown of gender. So, race. I'm sorry, gender will be next. 60.1 white, and of the 1,098, that's just what they call. This is who, if they answered. 30% black, and then 6.2% are basically 6% Hispanic, and then a small number of Asian, and then other 1.1%. So that's of that poll. That's I don't like to see that. That kind of gives you an idea of where they polled at. Now, another thing I would like to see in this poll, and I didn't see it in there, but I think it would have been good for them to do that if it was all over the state. But you could, and a polling company could do this. You could call into an area like in Georgia. You could call into Gwinnett County or Cobb County around Atlanta, or that would be a different demographic if you were to say go to Savannah or Albany. Albany would be a good example. Or if we could say Fulton County if it was Atlanta. So if we say Fulton County, and we look at that, that number, would it be different? Now I don't know where this came from. They could just say it's all over the state. We just called all it different area codes and pulled it. So I don't know that, but I think that would be good to know. Very good to know. So let's go to slide 9. And some of the age group here, kind of the breakdown of that, the 18 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 64. And so we see a lot of that 50 to, I'm in that 50 to 64. They didn't call me. I just told you. They didn't call me. And then 65 plus. So kind of, that was the biggest block, actually, the 50 to 64. It's interesting. I find that a little interesting. And so if you look at this, that's a whole nother thing that you could take from it is it was mainly middle age and up. I mean, there's about there was about 60% of it, or well, really, even I guess you could say 70% of it, because about 30% of it, maybe slightly more than that, was of people under 40. And the smallest block was the youth, 18 to 29. That's interesting that popped up like that. So I found that interesting. Then 10, then your gender. 55 is interesting. More females answered, quite a bit, significant. And that just makes you have even more questions. I'd like to see a further drill down. I'm sure they've got all this stuff. I would hope they do, because there's so many ways you can look at it. So as we look at, female, 55%, male, 44%. I would like to see, I don't even know if you can get that kind of data. Maybe I guess you can, is who voted, who voted more? Was it females or males, who stayed away more? Who's a registered voter? That how does that breakdown occur? I would like to see those numbers. I'm trying to. There's a lot of data online that you can go get that's free and available. There's others that you probably would have to pay for to get some of that. And of course, all the elections, I mean, all the campaigns, they have all that data. They have everything. They got people crunching numbers left and right, up and down, and especially in these contested states, like we read last week, the area of North Carolina. What was that? Wake County, is that what it's called? And how significant that county will be in North Carolina elections, and it could swing the whole state. Interesting. I find that stuff just completely interesting. So again, I don't spend a lot of time in polls. I really don't, because I think they can be dangerous and manipulated. But I don't mind saying that this polling agency and Rasmussen is really the only ones that I really look at. Oh, I mean, I've seen the New York Times, the Washington ones, the CNNs, the Fox, and you see those pop up, but I don't put a lot of stock in them. And they're going to constantly change. Again, it can be a lot of fuzzy math. But I will say in this election that there has been a lot of closeness. I've not seen a poll that shows a blowout. There are people predicting blowouts on both sides in states, but I've not seen a poll that says that. they could be hedging their bets a little bit, but afraid to do that. And, just got to be careful with that. If you better have some real hard data if you're going to show something like that, because you could affect an election. But I think these are probably pretty accurate and pretty close to true of what's really going on out there. So, sorry for the noise popping up. I've got a message popping up. I've got some new equipment here, and sometimes we get, different stuff. And so I may have to reboot for the next time because I got stuff that's wanting to download. But yeah, we'll be, looking this week at the debate. We'll break it down. And somewhere, I think I may have had that on my phone. One last thing that I want to cover, then we'll just talk about whatever until the 11. Feel free to come in and leave conversation, even the one that left negative. For, it could be looked at that way. I get it. You feel that way. We're just not going to put it on stage because that wasn't nice. But let's see here. Let's see. No, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. Give me just a moment. Because there were a little bit of differences between this one and the last one about the rules. And so this is from CBS, who's doing the debate. And I wanted to we read those for the presidential, and I wanted to give you a little bit of just an overview about the debate. Of course, it's at 9:00. Walls will stand behind the podium on the stage left. That's a little different, which is the right side from the viewpoint of the moderators on the screen. Oh, okay. They call that stage left. Vance's podium will be on the opposite side. Walls and Vance are to remain behind their podiums for the duration of the debate. No difference there from the presidential. They will be introduced by the moderators, beginning with the candidate of the incumbent party, meaning Walls will be introduced first. There will be no opening statements. That goes along with what happened in the presidential. It will be 90 minutes, which is the same, with 2 breaks of 4 minutes each. There will be no audience in the studio, just like before. For each question, the candidates who are asked the question will have 2 minutes to answer, and the other candidate will be allowed 2 minutes. And I think that's a little different. It might be a little different, or maybe I think that maybe that is the same. 2 minutes to respond and 1 minute rebuttal. Maybe that is the same. And the moderators may, at their discretion, give candidates an additional minute each to continue a topic. I can tell you, Trump's going to take a minute. Lights in front of each candidate will indicate how much time they have left to speak. The candidates will also each have a countdown clock. That's the same. And the moderators will be seated and will be the only ones in the room permitted to ask questions. Closing statements at the end. They will have 2 minutes each for closing statements. A coin toss was held on September 26 to allow the winner to choose the order of closing statements. Vance won the toss and elected to go second, so we have the final word. CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones, but otherwise they will be hot. So this is a little different. They were constantly killing the mics at the presidential debate, but the vice president, they're going to be hot, but they can turn them off. I don't have a problem with it if things get out of control and you can just stop the mics and get them back in. If you can't hear what's going on, it's not productive anyway. Candidates are not supposed to receive any questions in advance, nor will they receive any topics in advance. Additionally, campaign staffers are not permitted to interact with Walls and Vance during breaks. And candidates are not allowed to have props or pre-written notes on the stage. They will be given a pen, a pad of paper, and a water bottle. So really close to the presidential election or debate, but slight differences, slight. And once again, Vance got the coin flip. I'm going second, baby. Yeah, I'm going to have the last word in this. A lot on the line, and it'll be fun in the months and years to come. I would hope that we would look back at this and the other debate, and because I don't think debates win or lose elections. Although if somebody gets a hold of something, it could be maybe damaging to a degree. I don't think it gives anybody a tremendous bump. Everybody's pretty set, but it would be great to look back and see if there was something in either of these. Because there are some people said Trump had a horrible debate. Some said he had really good. I don't know what they're expecting. I think it's the same stuff. I don't think it has changed much at all, to be honest. Didn't change my opinion. There were things I thought they did good. There were things I thought they didn't do good on. There were points to be made, and some of them they didn't make that point. So I just think that it went fairly close according to plan. Some people thought he didn't close really good in his 2 minutes. And at that point, I think everybody's tired and ready to go home and turn off TV and go to bed. Just to being honest, I mean, I don't think that was a huge issue either way. And I went down that one. I'm not going to go back, but I talked about those gotcha moments. Are like, what? The only one I'll go back to is Kamala trying to say that Trump rallies were boring. Who wrote that? I still think somebody got fired over that comment. Who wrote that? Let's go back. You're done. I can't believe we listened to you. So the debate, I do watch them unless I'm working, and I just couldn't, but I'm off for this and I'll be there. And Lord willing, let's get called away for something. I do watch every minute of it. It's important for our country, and I think it's important to do. You know what I would like to see? This would be great. This would be better than a debate, the prep debate. I would love to see that for each side. The bloopers, the people in the room that are trying to coach them up and going, stop, you can't say that, don't do that, or going, yeah, that's what we want you to do. I would love to see that. That would make for great TV. Nobody's ever going to see that. I mean, they film them. They want to see how they look on camera, how you're coming across. They have people sit in and act and I wonder who plays. Sometimes you find out who's playing JD Vance. I don't know I think I heard this, but I don't remember who it was or who it's going to be or who it is now. I mean, they're probably working all the way up into tomorrow. But certainly this weekend has been, there's been some of that surely going on, getting them prepped tomorrow, the last minute things. And, as conditions have changed and things are going on, news is changing. There could be changes to questions, and there could be, I think the Middle East blowing up the way it has, the death of the Hezbollah leader Nasrallah. That funeral is scheduled for this week, and I can't remember if that's tomorrow or Tuesday. They do those pretty quick. But that's going to come up. I mean, it was going to come up anyway. The Middle East aflame, Israel defending itself. They're going to be asked about this. They got to be ready for this. Going to be asked about China. They're going to be asked about Russia, and Ukraine. The economy is definitely going to be on there. Of course, they're going to bring up abortion again, IVF, and all that's going to come up as well. The border is definitely going to get talk. Inflation, taxes, the whole deal. But each side is going to have their point that they really want to press. And, there may be a strike on the whole of the East Coast and all the way to Texas. Can you imagine how that might it's supposed to happen Tuesday. What timing? Could be a last second added questions, for that. And then who knows what news might happen between now and then in the world or even in our own country. They got to be ready to pivot, as they say, to be ready to have that kind of question. And you want your leaders to be able to do that. I have said this, and I may be wrong. I think this is the better debate. I really didn't expect anything other than what we got from the other debate. That really, like I said, I really didn't really have any emotion during it. There was a couple of times I said, that's not true, that's a lie, or that was a great comment, or should have done better there. I just spoke out loud. I was telling my wife, or just speaking to myself, you find yourself it just comes out like, that was a lie. That's not true. You could probably say that a lot. Of course, the fact checking going on, but I think this is the better debate. And the reason I have is because JD is, for Trump, he says, this is it. If he lost, he says, I'm not running again. This is the end of the road. Either he runs and wins and he serves his 4 years, and hopefully he was able to, health-wise and everything else. And, people trying to take him out, but hopefully Then he's, that's it. You can't run anymore. Or, he doesn't win and he says, I'm not going to do it. Too much, my age. And by then it would be, but JD is a different story. And I know Tim Walz ain't going to run. I mean, that's not going to happen, I wouldn't think. And so it's really, to me, it's to look at him going forward. And this could be the launching point of that to a degree. And there are those say, already people said that. Could the Republican Party hold on to the White House for 12 years? 4 with Trump, 8 with JD. Don't know, but the debate is going to go a long way with perceptions and money. How much money are people willing to put into a future campaign for JD Vance? Is this he's not only he's on the point right now for Trump and for himself, and there's a lot riding here, a lot, normal, not more than normal, a lot more. I really believe that. And how does it affect if Walz does not very well and Kamala loses, he's done. I mean, where's he going to go? I mean, back to governor. I mean, it's, there won't be a second tripper for him, not another trip around the bases, so to speak. If JD does bad or even good and Trump loses, if he does good, there's still hope that he would be or not hope, that it would certainly be among the names bandied about for 2028. Certainly, if he did bad, it could harm him in raising support. That campaign could be dead on the vine way before it was ever time for it to be a campaign. I do love his, there's things there. I mean, you can find something about anybody. You say, I don't like that, but I love his story. It's the American story. Hers is not the American story. Hers is not, it's not, being, appointed and just given stuff to a large degree. And I'm not trying to be negative here, but let's be honest. All the things that JD has, it's the American dream, raise yourself up by the bootstraps kind of stuff. And I think that speaks to a lot of Americans. Not everybody, but to a lot. It sure does. Hardworking, industrious people who've come out of poverty, extreme poverty, and made a success. The American story is this, it always has been, that we're free, and you're free to be whatever you want to be if you'll work hard and not give up. It's not an easy road. It's not easy to work and go to school. It's not easy to raise yourself up out of extreme poverty, but it does show the human spirit. It does show the American spirit, the American can-do attitude, and it is the American dream. When you have people that grew up in extremely poor circumstances, like some of these people that we've sadly just seen go through great disaster, and they're good people. They just have tough life, or some of them, not all of them, but they maybe don't make much. Maybe they're working 3 and 4 jobs. Maybe they, they don't have the finer things in life, but they're good, hardworking people of faith. And, that's a huge part of our nation. And they're finding it extremely hard to make it anymore. But you take a person like that, and maybe they're the first ones, and this happens a lot, the first one in their family to go to college. The first one, in some cases, finish high school and then maybe go to college and become a success, become a lawyer, a Yale grad, to be elected, to be a vice presidential candidate. It's an amazing story, a book written, a movie. It has all the hallmarks of pickup trucks, apple pie, and baseball. I mean, it just has that. What was the guy? There's been a couple of them do it, but in Tennessee, what was it? Lamar Alexander that drove around in his country looking, checkered shirt and drove the pickup truck and rode around and visited the little coffee shops and diners and stuff. That was a very successful campaign. People identify with that. The guys, back in the day, the World War II vets sitting at the local diner drinking coffee and swapping war stories and talking about the price of beans and if their baseball team is going to do any good and all that. And here comes the politician, stumping for votes, and they measure you, they looking at you, they like to see your hands, how much work have you done? They like to shake that hand. Any calluses in there? Do you understand, even having even an idea of what you're talking about? They might even ask you, where do you go to church, son? You got a Bible? What kind of Bible you got? Do you believe in Jesus? That's those questions you're going to get in those places like that. And they might ask him about a couple of tough questions. Well, how do you believe about this? If you want my vote, I want to know. I got to get to know you, son. I got to know what you're looking at, what you're going to look like when you get in there. Words are cheap. I want you to look me in the eye, and I want you to tell me what you're about, and I want you to stand on it. And to be able to come up and be that now, to be on that stage, the emotions have to be amazing at the beginning of this. I would look two things: Walls for just sheer panic. He's going to try to look calm and folksy and laugh, and there's no audience to play to. But he is definitely. I think those reports are probably fairly true. He's in a panic. There's a lot of pressure on him, a lot of pressure. And JD, just for the moment, being in that moment of where he came from, and being there on that debate stage, and then the enormity of it to please his boss, Donald J. Trump, and to present to the American people why he would be a great vice president and not blow it. I mean, there's that, but that moment, there has to be that moment where I would say if you see him looking around the room and just, he's taking it in. It's like, I don't want to forget this moment. It's another big one. He's had big ones already in the last few weeks. This is a big one. It's the biggest one maybe yet. And he'll be on stage, and we'll get to watch that and see that. I think that's fascinating. And then what comes out of that, we'll talk about that next week. We'll look at the debate, the pros, the cons, and other things. There's always going to be a lot of election news. And we'll talk about, that. I'd love for you to have comments. I appreciate those, not even the ones we don't particularly care for. I appreciate you coming and doing it. You probably meant it for whatever you meant it for. You know what? That's America. And I didn't put it on stage because I think it's, I wouldn't put up something like that against Kamala either. I wouldn't do it. I don't want to espouse those kinds of things. I stay away from that. I remember, I'd be careful here. I'd be getting in trouble, but I'll just say, I've seen people in church before, and I think they were kind of joking, seriously joking about some things and wishing some different things about a candidate and stuff. And I would say, I don't like that. I don't like it. And I just don't like that. I don't like to go down that road. Let's be above that. Let's pray for safety. Let's pray for the American people to get the answers they need. Sure, we're going to laugh at different things that happen, different comments. We're going to cringe at some things, I'm sure. And then, we'll look at the post-debate wrap-up, the talking heads, as they call them, see what they think. For the presidential, I did come on and do a short, quick follow-up, just my initial thoughts, and then try to dive in a little deeper on the next Sunday night. I'll probably do that if at all possible. We'll try to do that. I think I was on for about 45 minutes, and we just looked at the initial. I come in, I was very positive. Like I said, a lot of people, oh, you did horrible. You failed at this and failed at that. I thought he did very good. He was measured. There was a lot of body language cues and the way, just different things that happened. I thought he did really good at. There were things I thought he could have done a lot better. Sure. There's things I thought, oh, come on. Probably should have left that one in the box, potential things I want to say. Some things you just need to throw back in the box and say, I don't think I'm going to go there tonight. But you know, we get to see this, and I think it's great that we get to see that on a stage. And by the way, the world's watching. I mean, this is big. I mean, we're the most important nation on the face of the planet, according to the world. We've got the most, and they want to break us, and they want to, we've advanced freedom. We've, sent missionaries into the world, not as many as we used to, but we still do it. We're there to help people, defend people, stop people. The world is watching, and we'll just have to see how it goes. So, all right, we're getting down the last few minutes here of I don't know if that's the proper way to say that. Just say, look for us in the morning at 6 a.m., our Monday morning live, 6 a.m., same bat channel, same bat time, as they used to say. Be back together with Rob. Of course, he is just really recovering still from all the preparation and all the stress of the hurricane coming through, and everything's fine. So I'm looking forward to hearing his. Of course, he was devastated. The dog's going down. He called me. I did talk to him. It's like, oh, this is horrible. They're not stopping the edges. And I'm like, yeah, if it's too much, just turn the channel, man. Don't put that kind of stress in your life. I think he watched it. I don't know. We talked a little bit. And again, our interview got rescheduled for the local politician here in Georgia. We'll get that done. You just got to get feeling better. And then tomorrow night, Mama said, I'm hoping that we have a special guest from X, formerly Twitter. Somebody come in. They've been real supportive of the program, and told them to come up, and they were more than willing. One of them for sure. And we'll see. We like to have that and just see where that goes, and what they got to say. I'm interested about it, and I think they're from, I don't even remember now. They may have told me, I don't know. I'm going to communicate tomorrow with them, look back and get everything set up for tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Mama said, and that usually goes for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. 1 hour in the morning, we go from 6 to right at 7, and I have to go to work. And Rob does whatever Rob does. He's got many things he's working on. Glad to see Chris is feeling better. I talked to him a little bit this weekend. He's working on some music for a guy doing a fundraiser for cancer. And he's incredibly talented. I said, it's good. It's like that scene in Gettysburg right before Pickett's charge. And then he's talking to Pickett and he's talking about they got that old swagger back. Like it took some hard lumps. We got the swagger back, and that's why I told Chris. I said, it's so good to see you with that old swagger. He said it feels good. He's so excited. He's a creator. He's a musician, and he's got illness, and he can't do all the things he would like to do. But that mind is not affected, and he still can get things done just in different ways. And he's about to be back. So we're looking forward to that and what that'll be. Cowboy Cook, I was trying to get together him, do a little sports show. He was busy. And we've just been so busy with everything else. We had time to do one, but we'll try to get back in there and do one, talk about different things. We don't extremely focus on sports, but we do want sports to be a part of the podcast because, hey, most people like some kind of something, some kind of sports. We appreciate those that came into the stream this morning on the Sunday morning in the Word. One of those from Italy, and thank you for that. I don't know if you're listening to that. We did follow you back on this first one that we've had come in from Twitch, and so we got to update our programming too and get a commercial out about that because it has changed quite a bit, and we're just adding. I mean, it's not that we're not going down, we're going up, and we're doing different things, and we're trying to add things all the time and make it better. And I'm still working on getting my main studio built. This is just a temporary, has been, but we're hopeful to by the first year to have that, and that's going to open up a whole other level for me and have more room. This is very limited. It's great for what I do, but I want to have the ability to have guests in studio with me, and that's going to allow that. So we're excited about it, getting that done. And maybe in the cold of winter, we'll have that set up and have that done. Thanks for all that came in the stream tonight and in support or just mentioning stuff. We appreciate you. Stay with us as our different programs. We're thankful for our supporters through many different streams. We are trying to boost our follows and subscribes on YouTube and Facebook. We're doing very well on X, and so Rumble. We see those boost up a little bit, and we're seeing some of our smaller ones. We do some of our smaller programming on TikTok and many other smaller ones. And we're now on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and got another one we'll probably be getting into here soon. But always looking to do those things. But hey, have a great night and God bless. Join us in the morning for the morning show. We're looking for a morning devotion, our Monday through Friday devotion. We don't have a funny ready for in the morning. I'm hoping this week to get those scheduled up. And I'm sorry those have not been there. There's been, Rob's had all the things he's dealt with hurricane. There's been some things he's been going speaking at the American Legion about veteran suicide. And we got a little bit behind on. He wasn't feeling good some days, but kind of hard to do you funny if you don't feel good. We hope to get that back going. I was talking about to my wife tonight. I said, I missed the funnies. We got the daily funny, a little short funny to get your day, get your tickle box turned over. And at least nothing else, you can laugh at us. But we will have the devotion. And we'll get back on the Animal Rescue Alliance Pet of the Week dog. That's Wednesday. So we'll get that back going. Another episode 2 of Southern Talk. We focused on North Carolina last time, but I could almost go there and do it again. But I do want to look into the state of Kentucky, and hopeful to do that. And that should be Tuesday night. And then Wednesday, our normal programming. And then we may have some special stuff Thursday. Next week, the following week after this week we're in, I may be out a couple shows. Rob may be having to handle the host duties alone, or maybe have a special guest in or one of the regular guests. I have some work duties I've got to do. I'm going to be at work really late. I think a couple nights. One of those, I don't think it'll be more than one night. And I might even be able to work it where it's none. We're going to talk about that Wednesday this week, so I'll know the schedule and know how that goes. I hate to miss anything. I'm trying not to. So we should be able to work that out. So I hope so. And we might alter just a little bit, but something you would never even notice and get that. And I have really made the decision this may start. It won't start this week, but I'm going to prepare hopefully for the following week. I think the veteran of the week should become veteran of the day. Just so many veterans to honor. And I may look into doing that, or not may. We're going to look into doing it. It's just something on my heart. Those are very moving, very hard to do. By the way, Saturday, if you haven't seen it, we did Ashley Babbitt. And we only had one semi kind of negative comment, but it was very well received, and it meant a lot to people that we did that. And I just felt like that name was just placed right in my heart to do that. I do my research. I have no idea where I'm going with that. Sometimes names are sent to us. Sometimes I just do research. And I just let the Lord lead me, and wherever that leads, there'll always be a name that pops up, and that's the one that we do. And so, but I always say, God, there's so many, and not to overdo it, or because I don't think you can overdo it, but you don't want to, make people hate what you're doing. I just think that at least Monday through Friday, we should do that, and maybe still do one on Saturday. So I don't know, but it may be 7 days a week. I don't know. There's so many veterans to honor, living and deceased. Thank you to the American soldier who keeps us free. A lot of blood spilled in defense of freedom. Freedom comes with a cost. There's always the death of something. It's like sin, the death of Jesus to set, be able for men to be set free from the bondage of sin. It was the Lamb of God. There always is a cost. There's the death of something. And there's, unfortunately, for freedom, there's been a lot of death, and there will continue to be death. And I will just say this, I have no extreme or no insight or details, but I don't think it takes a lot of determining about this, but just be paying attention, because more and more of the American forces are getting involved in the Middle East, and that's all I'll say. Pay attention. Let's pray for our American military and our allies. Let's pray for the lost, people that don't know the Lord, and the coming issues of prophecy that we see. And, if you're saved and ready to go, and, God, we have God with us. And it's just mankind's getting more evil every day, right? Enough preaching. But hey, good night. God bless. I'm fixing to click over here, and stream will end. We appreciate you so very much. Thank you tonight again, and we'll see you in the morning or the next time that you join us. Again, the programs are recorded as well as being live. They go straight to that, even if they're live. We load those up that are not live. And so you get, you can watch it whenever at your leisure. I know some of them are kind of long. Everybody ain't got a lot of time to watch everything, but catch what you can. We appreciate it. Have a great night on this Sunday. Think of those that are in the bad places, total devastation. Be sure to think about those and to pray for those. We can't go wrong doing that. All right. Good night and God bless.
Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast.